All right, good evening, everybody. So this is a really exciting night because Tri-State has been such a friend of so many rail photographers over the years. Owinston Link, Johnny Krause, Bruce Nett, so many others. Dennis Livesey has given a lot of presentations here. Steve Barry has given a lot of presentations here. So tonight is really exciting. There's a lot of young rail photographers out on the scene, posting stuff to Facebook all the time and sharing what they are able to catch and chase and do out there. So really excited to be hosting three of them tonight, keeping the long tradition of bringing rail photography to presentations at Tri-State. Really excited to host these guys. Really excited to consider them my friends and friends of URHS and Tri-State. So really excited to have them. We have Rob Amoya, Duncan Mara, and Russell Sullivan. So first up will be Rob Amoya. Rob is the youngest photographer who's presenting tonight. Rob is 18, comes from Bergen County, currently studying engineering at Rutgers University. We could probably use that in Booten when you get your degree. Rob's been into trains like most of us since he was a little kid. He'll be showcasing his photography from 2023, taken from a few minutes away from his house to as far away as a 3-hour flight. Between passenger and freight, old and new, he shoots it all, and we're eager to see what he's got. Here you go, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Floor is yours.
All right, so thank you, Richie, for saving me the work of the introduction, even though I already did that. Wait, it's up to go to the next slide, right?
Dan.
All right, so first one, I'm just kind of going in the order of which I shot last year. This was, I believe, in M403. I was actually up at Auto 15 for this one on the River Line, and we shot that and we kind of said, we'll probably won't beat it down to CP5 because you know how fast road trains go. So we drive down, see what's going on with the Susquehanna, and then we hear a horn up by Mount Vernon Street, and it turns out it's the same train. So I don't know if they slowed down by 10 or whatever, if they took the siding track, but we beat them somehow. And that shot came out a lot better than it did at Auto 15, which was nice. This one, Duncan was actually here for this one, and I owe him the credit for having me able to get the shot because me and another friend were sitting in our car, and then they round the bend, but we didn't know that because we had the music blasting, and Duncan's like, yo, the train's here. So thank you, Duncan, for that. I don't think I ever thanked you. Very rare to see the 3018 on charge of a road train because it doesn't have PTC. These guys run over the Port Jervis line over transit. So really cool to see that. They obviously dropped it in Sparta because it couldn't lead. This is one of my favorites for sure. For a good portion of time earlier in the spring, the F40 twins were supposedly retired from revenue service. Obviously that's not the case as they're back today. But for that time, they were put on a tie train working over the Bergen County and Main lines. I remember the first time Russell was there, we shot then, I think around Saddlebrook, Plauderville area. And then a couple weeks later, they flipped the power. So the 4120 was leading. And that was up closer to Hohokus. This one, Duncan was also here for that one. I had a early half day for school. So I figured I'd go out and see what was going on in the train world. Then my friend texted me that there was a west job coming down from Sparta with the new heritage unit, the 3024 leading. So I went up to Midland Park, that 4-way intersection at Scoffel Road, and I forget the other one. But that's one of my favorite spots on the Susquehanna, and I've never seen a southbound there. So it was cool to finally see one, and with a good power set too. This one, I'm sure you've all know what the 611 is, Norfolk and Western. It was running on the Strasburg Railroad for a bit. So for Memorial Day weekend, a couple friends and I went out there and shot that. This is one of my favorite shots with the horses. Basic Amish country scenery, nothing really crazy, but I like the scenery. This is also another popular shot, the Westwood Plaza shot. It's actually like a 3-minute drive from my house. I'm up in Emerson. Nothing really crazy, transit Jeep leading a rush hour train. The good thing about this spot is the light in the evening rush can be very nice. So sometimes I like to take advantage of that after work or something if I get out early. This one, no, that was a couple of days later. The DOT Heritage, the 4101 Pearl River. Most of the Pascagoula Valley line has amazing light and rush hour during the summer. So I like to take advantage of that because obviously in the winter by 4:30 it's dark out. So I met up with a friend in Pearl River and we shot this one coming in. I think that was 1631, I want to say. This one, SG-99 up the LHR, I think that's Baird's Farm, I believe it's pronounced. They were out of Pagoda pretty early that day, so we were able to get a decent chase of them. And that was probably my favorite shot from that day. This one, this is, I want to say it's up there for one of my favorite shots from the year. This is over in Hazleton, Pennsylvania on the Reading and Northern. We were just out there for a trip with a couple of friends. We didn't really know what was running, but then we got a heads up that these guys were working Amoia and Jetto, and originally it was just the SD50, the 5049, and then when they came down from the branch line, they combined with the Humboldt job, which is kind of just a switcher that works in industrial park down there. So they combined with that, and it was 4 engines and however many cars that was, and the coal mine made for a really cool shot. I've always wanted to check that one out, so it was nice to finally cross that one off my list. This one was actually that same trip, the Reading Northern's famous Iron Horse Rambles with the T1 2102 that they restored a couple years ago. It was my first time seeing it on one of those trips, so that was really cool. If you haven't gotten the chance to see that yet, I would definitely say to go out and check it out because it's really awesome. The sounds, just the sights, it's really cool to see. This one, for my graduation trip to Florida, I graduated high school this past summer. My family and I went down to Florida. One of the main reasons was because I like the trains down there a lot. They're pretty cool and mostly different from what we have up here. So this is the Bright Line. It's relatively new startup passenger service. It runs over the FEC main line. And that was a northbound heading towards, at the time, West Palm Beach. And this is from that same trip. This was probably my favorite shot from the trip, the Tri-Rail Jeep 49s. Only Lord knows when those things are going to be gone, because for the past few years, they've been on their last legs. And they're really the only, they just rebuilt their F40s. So these are the oldest, technically, engines that they have. And they're really cool to see because I'm a big Jeep guy. So this one, the day actually, I had to wake up at very early for this after getting home at like 3 a.m. from Florida. Friend texted me that Metro North was running an OCS/inspection train up the Harlem line. So we went out and chased that, got up really early. I only got like 3 hours of sleep that night, but it was worth it. Really cool to see their 2 new heritage wraps for their 40th anniversary, leading the old Phoebe snow cars. That was really cool. This one doesn't really show the whole train, but I thought the angle was kind of cool. Back in, I want to say August sometime, this is either the last or one of the last BC Rail wide cab -9s. It came on some Norfolk Southern oil train into Linden. So since I'd never seen one, I wanted to. We went down there to see that, and there was a plane passing over, so I figured see how that came out, and it came out pretty nice. This has to be the shot of the year. I'm sure most of, if not all of you know what this is, what these engines are. I am really fortunate to have gotten the opportunity to work on the 3372. I sanded the bejesus out of that thing. So really cool to see the finished product. And despite the weather that we had that weekend, the amount of people that came out to shoot it and that stayed for the night shoot, that was really, really rewarding. This, the 40th anniversary trip, which I wrote about in the latest newsletter. Quite a bit of people there. I'd say there at least had to be 20 for that, because I wanted to shoot. What did I say? Yes, I mean, it's really all there is to it. There's 2 L46s in their heritage liveries leading. It was really cool though to see our the URHS's private cars on the Northeast Corridor, because that's something that doesn't happen every day. This was another shot from further down the line in Red Bank. There was also a ton of people there. I think there was really a ton of people at every spot, but this had to be one of my favorites from that trip, just because I'm a big bridge shot guy. I know I don't have that many in here, but this is, I like this bridge a lot. I've shot here before. I've shot the SA-31 and a couple trains. This one is getting back to our URHS cars in Hickory Creek. Back in mid-October, I drove a couple friends up to the Albany area to shoot the New York Central searchlight signals. So this was, we knew it was running, but we didn't really anticipate much of it because we thought the light would be gone. But by the time they came back south, we were at the, I forget exactly what milepost. It was Hyde Park, a couple miles north of Poughkeepsie. And that shot I just kind of winged it. Is that the right thing to say? So I didn't expect the shot to turn out that nice, but I think it turned out really nice with the lighting and the leaves being kicked up. It really sums up what fall foliage in the Hudson Valley is like. This one, the infamous Collins Curve in Waldwick. I remember I'd gotten home from work and I saw that a friend texted me that the Erie was on 11:59, I believe. So since I hadn't shot that thing in daylight yet, I decided make the 15-minute drive over to Waldwick, and that shot came out really nice with the fall foliage, kind of blends in with the yellow of that engine. This one, the CP Holiday train. This train has been on my bucket list for years, so I'm really glad that I was able to see it this year. This is kind of the main first shot everyone gets. It's going over the thruway in Albany through what people call the Concrete Canyon, because it's kind of like dug in between the highway. And then here's this another great shot of the same train a couple hours later going over the bridge, and I think that's Waterford, I want to say, something like that. Co-host, okay. Okay, thank you. So yeah, it was really cool to see the lighting that up at night. It's really, I'm a big holiday guy. I love the holidays, so stuff like this just really gets me in the holiday spirit. And then, how could I forget our own Santa train? Shot at Lincoln Park. It was, lighting wasn't the best, but I worked with it, came out decently. I wanted to chase it, but I also wanted to get back because we were going to Great Notch after that, so didn't really want to miss that. And this was actually taken a couple weeks ago when I was out at Strasburg with some friends for 90. I don't know if anyone else knows 90. This year's it went down for its FRA rebuild. So we went to see that before it went down because it'd be out for at least a couple years. So since there were the holiday lights there, I figured take advantage of the opportunity to kind of capture those in the picture, get everyone in the feel for the holidays. This one, the CSX LO40, it's a job that works the river line space out of Kingston. We actually didn't expect them to go this far. There was some metal company that they were working, and they ended up pulling all the way to the end of the line, which supposedly they usually don't do. I'm not really qualified up there. I was with a friend that day, so I can't confirm whether that's rare or not, but it was really cool to see them kind of essentially what looked like abandoned track in the middle of the woods where they went to run around and then shove back out onto the river line, which was pretty cool. And lastly, this was taken on New Year's Eve, just a couple of weeks ago. Nothing crazy in terms of the train itself, but I like the shot with the skyline in the background. That was at Dobbs Ferry, New York on the Hudson line. Amtrak service was messed up that day. There was something that went down with like the dispatching or something like that. Yeah, I knew it was something along that line. Thank you. So I just got that shot. Nothing. I like the angle. Yeah, it's basically it. Any questions?
Last shot, that's the Hudson, right?
I'm sorry?
That's the Hudson.
Yes, that is the Hudson line. That's the
Get that shot.
There was a little park by some restaurant, I forget the name, but you could park your car like right there, and I use the zoom lens for that. I'm sorry?
Eastern side.
Yes, that's the eastern side. Yeah, and that's the George Washington Bridge in the back there.
The previous slide that showed that Kingston local, where was that taken?
I forget what, I think that was, it's on the Newburgh branch. I don't,
That's the old Erie there.
yeah, I don't remember exactly what the name of that town was. That might have been it. It's on the top of my head.
That's the line that crosses up and over the river line.
Yes, yeah,
Right there.
over in
that's-
Newburgh.
that's the old Erie Newburgh line.
Any other questions? Yes,
The CP Holiday train, was that a Jeep 9 pulling, you know?
it was a Jeep 20 Eco, I believe.
Jeep
The
20,
rebuild
you
Jeep 9.
You talked about that track, you said it's gonna be out for a couple of years?
Yeah, the 90, yeah, it's going for its mandatory FRA rebuild, so
I
probably,
think that's gonna cost a lot of money, thank you.
I would say so, yeah. I think,
Thank you.
all right, thank you, everyone. Richie, and Michael, thank you for having me tonight.
I would just like to note that there between who's people are here and the people are online, there's 130 people tuned in right now. So bravo, you guys can really draw a crowd. Also, there's a lot of nice compliments online, and a lot of nice notes about the photographers from back when that used to come present here, like pictures at Collins Curve. And someone remarked that the 611 shot looked like Mod's ode to the local on the Abington branch, which was taken by Winston Link. So that's really cool. So next up, we have Duncan Mara. Duncan is a 22-year-old North Jersey resident who has been photographing trains for nearly a decade. Growing up, so you started when you were 12?
Shooting pictures, yeah.
Okay.
It was already all over since I was like 1 or 2. Like I was just
Very cool. So you grew up along the Susquehanna in Passaic County. Duncan is very passionate about the railroads from an early age and started photographing them soon after. Most of his shots are for 2023, or generally taken around this area, but a few images are from the West Coast. So welcome, Duncan. Come on down.
Richie, does the microphone come up?
So down is
Yep.
got it. All right, so starting off here, we have sometime in January. Is the Conrail's BY1 job out of Bayway. Switching New York terminal. Up there's the Goethals Bridge and AK Draw. That was the former Staten Island Railway in the background. And you got the XEL Heritage Unit ST45-2 that NS owns 1700. Kind of nice to see it around. It used to be on the OI-16, can't lead over transit anymore, so it's usually kicks around Oak Island, but it winds up on this job every now and then they go over to Staten Island on the Arthur Kill. This is believe very early February, and well, yeah, you would know. As many of us know or saw on the news, NS derailed at East Palestine, Ohio, and vinyl chloride spill, and pretty bad overall. Had to detour a lot of trains, and this was I believe there's a 28X detouring down east of Binghamton as NYS&W SC100X. Ran via the tier to Campbell Hall and then the NYS&W to Marion, where it was handed off to NS. This is at Basket, New York, on the ex-Erie, Delaware division. That's one of the SD70s the NYS&W bought from NS that would be repainted soon after, leading a trio of NS engines going around on the Delaware. And then this was a detour down the river line a few days later, also as a result of East Palestine. This was a 22H coming over Iona Island. You can see the train was stretched all the way around through Fort Montgomery above the Bear Mountain Bridge. That was pretty cool. It was, nice sunny day out. Took the advantage to get this shot there. Oh. This is the Rob also had a shot of this train, except this is the CSX L040, the Kingston local at on the Tri-Seal Industrial in Blauvelt, New York. This is at CP22 on the river line. They serve Tri-Seal plastics down the hill there. It's quite a steep grade coming up. So they come up, and then in the background they come into the interlocking there at CB22. Is ex-Western Maryland SD40. It was kind of it's been on that job for most of the past year. It was a kind of nice shot to take there. This is I think this is actually a late winter storm, maybe in March yeah. Oh, okay. This is it's the NS H55 heading eastbound up the Suffern Industrial to go to Manhattan Beer and Tallman. They run on this. This is now done at night, but for a while it was done during the day by the H55. There's Manhattan Beer and then Dykes Lumber a little further east. And then those are familiar with the line from there to Spring Valley, a few miles, or not in service. There's a kind of nice shot in the snow in the tree tunnel there. Yeah, so they split because the way there isn't really a runaround, so they have to split the power and they go up with it on each end. And it's just a little easier of a move usually. This is some Middletown, New Jersey, CH1 at Sugarloaf on the former LNHR, Hudson Secondary. For the past, I believe it's been at this point probably a year. The Middletown, New Jersey's been leasing a PTC equipped locomotive from New Jersey Transit because I guess their locomotives aren't PTC equipped. So is seeing a New Jersey Transit engine down here probably hasn't happened in quite a few years, although it's still ongoing now. You can whenever they go down, they need it to get over the southern tier at Campbell Hall. And then this was the NYSW 3024, former NSSD 40 was repainted into maroon and silver, I believe 1953 paint scheme up at Butler Shops, and this was the day it was released, and the one of the local crews took it east to the yard in Ridgefield Park. So this is them coming by the yard board sign at Pagoda. And this is about a week or two later, the Sparta turn coming east by the rebuilt Sparta station and the old water tower at the 3024 leading one of the SD70 M-2s that was from NS. And this is another Sparta turn. This is when the Mill Riff Bridge was being repaired. So they had to run. There was no road train to get the Sparta traffic up. Coming through a rock cut up by Oak Ridge, and it same engines as previously shown, the 4060 repainted and 3024. And then this is on the trip. I went out with a friend out to Arizona and California for a week, photographed the BNSF, the UP, some short lines. So there were a few photos in there. It was a really good time. I'd never been out that way before, and it was really really cool experience. So that's a BNSF Z train, as they call it, high priority intermodal, going across the Colorado River from Topeka, Arizona into Needles, California on the Sullivan sub. This is the Trona Railway, which is in the middle of the Mojave Desert, and they utilize a bunch of former SP and UP SD40s and tunnel motors. That apparently they may be getting some GEs at some point, but nothing has happened there quite yet. So it's kind of cool to see SP painted tunnel motors still running. And this is the job for the UP interchange departing Searles, California, where their big mineral plant is. They move minerals to and from the UP interchange. This is at East Barstow. There's a lot of trains getting in and out of the yard. We had a stack train on the right waiting to get into the yard. There's a UP train heading up to the SEMA sub, I believe, at Daggett. And then we had a DPUs of a BNSF train. So the two were racing while the one was sitting there waiting to get in the yard. This is a westbound manifest at Pica, Arizona at sunset on the Seligman sub, and you have the Santa Fe water towers that for the steam engines, and someone someone did like a chalk drawing of the Santa Fe like Native American mascot there with the Santa Fe logo. It's kind of hard to tell, but it's kind of neat. You have the Grand Canyon Railway at Walaha, Arizona, coming back from the Grand Canyon to Williams. And for those of us here, the trailing unit is, I believe, F40 number 4128, which is a former New Jersey Transit locomotive, was sold and now runs out there, although they usually trail the lead units in ex-Amtrak. They usually trail the Amtrak ones for whatever reason. That was pretty cool. There was a bunch of thunderstorms over the Grand Canyon coming in there. And then this is the FMI, the Freeport Mech-Moran, and they run from I believe a copper mine up in my God, Morenci, and interchange with the Arizona and Eastern in Clifton, Arizona. And they run down a very steep grade, as you can kind of see it there. and they interchange with the Arizona Eastern, and they have a bunch of Jeeps. Pretty cool operation. Video would definitely videos of these guys are definitely worth watching. It's pretty steep grade. They go up and down. And this is you can see that was the FMI coming down off the hill, and the Arizona Eastern taking some interchange that they had just gotten from them, departing back to their yard up the hill there the way they go. I believe is a ex former Southern Pacific. I think B-39s is a lot of their roster, the G&W operation. Is the UP Manifest westbound on the former SP Sunset route. I believe now it's the Lordsburg sub at Cienega Creek outside of Tucson. It's kind of interesting. You can't see it in the picture, but the eastbound main actually swings under the bridge, and they kind of cross over each other. So if you were to get lucky on the other side in the morning, you get a meet shot potentially if two trains happen to cross over. A lot of photos have been taken here. Historically. And this is a UP intermodal train westbound on the Gila sub west of Eloy, Arizona. Some of the mountains in the background. And I think that concludes the Arizona portion. And we're back on the East Coast. This was the first SU-99 back over Mill Rift after it had been getting work done to it. Those three of the four repainted SD-70s from Norfolk Southern, as well as the 3024 trailing there. As them going over Mill Rift westbound. So I went on a couple trips up to the Albany region with some friends throughout the summer, try to chase trains on the D&H between Albany and Binghamton, which is manages to be difficult somehow during the day, despite I believe 6 daily trains, but it's another story. We went up there, and the CSX runs a job on the Troy branch, which I believe is an ex-New York Central branch. I might be wrong there, but I think that's what it is. This is, I believe, is the LO20 switching on the Troy branch, and they go up here a couple times a week, but business has been up and down. I believe there's a decent amount of business there right now, so it's kind of a cool, little branch line up there. Not a lot of people photograph. Pretty neat. This is one of the times we were actually able to chase a train that ran on the D&H between Albany and Binghamton. This is the 265 at Afton. There's searchlights there, which have been since removed, sadly. They're now like all the newer style signals here. That was a nice shot. We chased them all the way down from Schenectady down to Binghamton. It was a fun time. And this is Rob at a shot from here as well. The CPA is now CPKC, but Canadian Pacific turn from Saratoga to Kenwood and back. And sometimes they usually will use the ecos that he had a picture of, but sometimes if there's an ethanol train or I guess a lot of tonnage, they'll use a bunch of road engines. And one morning we stumbled upon this, and it was a pretty neat mix of power. You had the way back there's the D-Day unit that they painted, the D-Day invasion stripe heritage unit. So that was pretty cool. And it's coming by the D&H headquarters in the trench of the concrete canyon. It's pretty neat. And this is just a shot, kind of just throwing some SD-70 shots in there. It was a big. I would go out for them quite a lot. They look nice, fresh paint. This is just an SU-99 going west at east of Newfoundland. Down in the distance was Green Pond Junction with the CNJ. This is just them coming west one evening. The two of them bracketing the 3014. And this was the same evening I worked further east and got the one of the WS locals heading west for Pompton Junction, the former NS High Hood 5212. It's kind of neat to see around. There's not many of those left, especially in the past few years, and purging all their locomotive fleet. And this is NS 11Z, one of two road trains that runs on the Sunbury line from Binghamton to Harrisburg on Tunkhannock Viaduct, and somehow managed to be the first time took me until this year to see a train on the bridge, and it was pretty cool. As a bonus, the fourth in the consist is one of the NYSW's SD40s going for wheel work, I believe, in Enola. So that was kind of a little bonus there. Yeah, it was a 3018. This is the end of the summer trip. It's the same trip as the last photo. Took a trip up, saw the Finger Lakes GS2 with a job that runs from their yard in Geneva out to Syracuse, Solvay, and back. And their paint schemes, the New York Central inspired paint scheme, trio Jeep 38s. That was them on the run between the 2 points. And then main objective of the trip was to see the Buffalo in Pittsburgh, because they've had for past few years a ex-Conrail SD60Ms, and they were impending to be replaced by a bunch of former BNSF-9s, which for the most part at this point, there's only a couple of these left. When there's at the time, this was their prime motive power. So this is the Salamanca to Riker. Yeah, sorry, Riker Yard job, the SIRI. This is the former B&O Buffalo and Rochester. This is at Bradford, Pennsylvania, heading out from there. There's a trio of those. And this is this on what was the Allegheny Railway, Buffalo and Pittsburgh, WAJO Warren to Johnsonburg. The job that runs between the Warren and Johnsonburg, and they regularly use 4 or 5 Jeeps, which is pretty neat to see pulling a good amount of cars. This is them departing Warren, coming over the Truss Bridge. It was a pretty fun chase with those guys. And then this is just another SU-99 westbound at Maywood, the 2 of the SD70s and one of the eco units back there. And then this is the NJ Transit 4109, the CNJ Heritage Unit descending the ramp at Aldine, which was built back in the 60s to divert their commuter trains away from Communipaw Terminal up to Newark Penn to get rid of Communipaw effectively. So this is coming down the ramp there from the Lehigh Valley to the CNJ Main. And this is the 4101, which is the NJ Dot Heritage Unit, which was done last year, leading an eastbound train at Westmont on the Bergen County line. And as people probably know, most engines usually face west, but believe they had a cab car shortage, so in a pinch they put on the east end of a train set. It was pretty nice to photograph there. And this is a SU-99 that ended up being daylight up on the tier, and this was got them coming over Sturrucka Viaduct with a bunch of the SD70s and 3024 in there as well. And in the fall, it was pretty nice. And this was the Transit's newest heritage unit, the Erie 4210, westbound on the Bergen County line at BT interlocking the interchange with the NYS&W, which you can't really see, but the NYS&W, that's the connection track down to the NYS&W back there. Pretty nice, former Erie rails. So it was pretty nice. It looks good. And then finally, we have the Metro North's New York Central Heritage Unit that they did a couple months back up in the fall. This is north of Manitou at Kings Dock Road, the Bear Mountain Bridge in the background coming up the Hudson Line. That's also very nice looking engine there. So, and that's it.
Thank you, Duncan.
Questions?
Yeah, there are questions.
Yeah, does anyone have any questions for Duncan?
How do you take that shot off the M17 without getting?
No, stand behind the hood.
Oh, stand behind.
Yeah.
Right. Well, kind of. No. I was I don't. So you kind of just like you can park. I believe I forget the name of the road. We kind of just park below, and just kind of walk up and kind of stand below the bridge. And I pretty much just generally, so you're not standing out there. There's a sidewalk on the bridge, but kind of just wait till you hear him blowing from Maywood Ave, and then just kind of make your way up so you're not standing there. kind of just a quick get in, get out type of deal. But yeah. Is that it?
Your mom and dad said great job.
Yeah, very good.
There was a question that came online that said,
Yeah.
what time of day did you shoot Titanic? Do you remember?
It was mid to late morning, maybe around 11:10. That train generally leaves Binghamton mid-morning. It takes them usually about an hour to get down there, from what I remember. So,
Other than that, a lot of great compliments.
all right. Cool.
Clickers up here.
Yes.
Cool. Alrighty. And last but certainly not least, so Russell, coincidentally, we did this in alphabetical order. We also did an age order. You're the oldest one at 25. Yeah, exactly. So Russell Sullivan's a 25-year-old New Jersey resident who's been photographing the New Jersey rail scene for the past 10 years.
I did not exit the womb with a camera.
Could have fooled me. Growing up in Bergen County and spending summers at the Jersey Shore, wouldn't have guessed. Sullivan has a passion for photographing the often overlooked industrial rail scene that bridge these two areas. Russell will share his favorite photos captured in 2023 from the Garden State. So Russell,
Thank you.
down arrows forward.
Got it. Thank you, Mr. King. Thank you for having me here. We don't normally see presentations from the younger generation, but it's nice to get a slice of the action. So I hope I don't mess this up. Here we go. All right, we'll get right into it. I know the brief introduction said I'd be presenting from the Garden State, but we wind up in Campbell Hall for the first shot,
There you go.
despite my friends saying I never leave New Jersey. So this is January 10th, Middletown in New Jersey's CH1 local, shoving out of Campbell Hall Yard at CP Hall with least 4112, I guess, shoving. They're heading to Red Onion and 4-Story Junction. Up next was January 16th, Martin Luther King Day. What do you do when you're off from work all day? You go around and photograph trains, I guess. So this is Conrail's PR44 local, in one of the back alleys of the Reformatory branch down in Carteret, Port Reading area. These are the only 2 customers on this section of the Reformatory. So he's at Jarrick International there, and then Oak is to the right. Following that, we followed them down the Reformatory on their way back to Port Reading Yard, which is where they're based out of. This is along Woodbridge Creek behind one of the parks over there. I don't know what the tide was, but I imagine the track level is not much higher than the water line. So following that, we go to the cover photo for this evening's presentations. This is Conrail's BY1 local, originating out of Bayway Yard in Elizabeth, goes over to Staten Island every day, roughly late morning. This is them coming on to the new connection from the Garden State Secondary to the Staten Island Railway at CP Tom. It had a pair of Norfolk Southern SD45-2s leading with a bunch of trash for the Fresh Kills facility. And later in the day, I got them crossing back over the Arthur Kill Lift Bridge in the afternoon, this time with the 1700 leading in Erie Lackawanna colors. The bridge here is the Arthur Kill Lift Bridge. It is the longest vertical lift span in the world. So it's a brief little fact that the Garden State boasts, painted in B&O enchantment blue when it was repainted in the 2000s when service was revived to the island. Moving on to January 27th, we got the same set of power. This is a Conrail OI-34 that recrewed the BY1. This is at Upper Bay Bridge that spans between Newark and Bayonne. Can I tell you about this shot? I mean, I've shot the Upper Bay multiple times, so I wanted to do something different here. So generally speaking, I try to go on the right side of the sun. This time I shot directly into the sun and it came out not too bad. Following month, February 24th, I did pretty much the same thing, just with the transit train. This is mainline train 1221 to Waldwick. It's had one of the 2 transit F40 locomotives left in revenue service. This was right before it was pulled for non-revenue service briefly during the springtime. About a month later, this was them back in non-revenue service. This was Waldwick Yard. They're picking up 8 stone empties from Waldwick. Actually, no, these were loads. 8 stone loads from Waldwick Yard. They were grabbing another, I believe, 17 from Suscon, which is the Susquehanna's another Susquehanna interchange point for transit. That's where the stone really comes out of. That goes up to Pompton to be loaded. It was very cold that night. This is March 14th, a late winter snowstorm on the Piermont branch. This is the very end of what's left of the Piermont branch. This is H55 switching out Dykes Lumber. You could see the end of service. Yeah, sign and the rails cut right there. So pretty much at milepost 3 on the Piermont is where it ends. All right, moving down to March 18th. This is one of the CSX intermodal trains that leaves out of Port Newark. This is the I-169, photographed at CP Ferrone. This is the new siding that was installed not long ago to alleviate the bottleneck, Conrail's Passaic and Harsmas line. The Meadows Maintenance Complex is in the background, and leading this was one of the few Dash 9s that were reactivated recently. About a few hundred feet from the last shot is what is this? NS-22X. This is an intermodal train from Chicago to Croxton, crossing CP Hack. This is now on the Jersey City side. The Reading unit was leading this train. It had just been repainted and was leading its inaugural run after that. This is from the new Whitpen Bridge. If you look in the photo, you'll see the old support structures for the old bridge. So this is a fairly new shot that you can now get because of the old bridge being removed. Where are we now? April 14th. So this was actually, I believe this was the first time one of the new Susquehanna SD70s led the SU-99. As you can see, it didn't go so well. This is the SJ1 being tacked on to the head end. They had a rundown light power from Sparta. They dragged them up the hill from Newfoundland. This was right as they hooked on, so I was able to snap a photo briefly as after the sun went away. And a few days later, this is the SU-99. This is at Matthews Ave in Riverdale, one of the new 70s leading. What do we got trailing? One of the SD40s and an eco unit. April 22nd, this is at Waldwick Yard. This is another one of the times that one of the F40 duo was on a tie train. This is Port Jervis train 73 in the background with one of the CNJ GP40s whizzing by on the main. Moving down to April 30th. This is one of the Susquehanna jobs that was coming back from PC Yard in Saddlebrook. So this is photographed from the Alco S2 that's in Maywood that has the same exact paint scheme as the 3024. So it was neat to get a side-by-side of both of them to compare the two. The 3024 was built for the BN. It was eventually purchased by the Susquehanna, or was purchased by Norfolk Southern and then later purchased by the Susquehanna and was just repainted into that scheme. After that, this was during the brief era when Mill Rift Bridge was out of service during the spring. So there was a set of road engines that was trapped down on the Southern Division. So this is one of the West Turn jobs that went up to Sparta earlier in the day, was on their way back to Richfield Park, and they had cars for Belden Brick on the Pompton Industrial and Pompton Lakes. So this is them spotting cars up there with 3024 and one of the SD70s. You don't normally see the wide cabs on this branch, but it was neat to see. On to the summer. This is the 4th of July. As part of the 40th anniversary of rail operations for New Jersey Transit, they assigned some of the heritage locomotives to lines that you wouldn't normally see them at. So this is at Bradley Beach on the coastline. This is 4109 pulling in. It's one of the more classic shots. I know initially the Monmouth Piano building was in the background. It was unfortunately demolished about 6 or 7 years ago and was replaced with condos. But one will note that the developer for that property paid a little homage to it by adding those clocks that mimic the initial building that were there. 2 days later, this is the 4109 again. This is going over Shark River Bridge. And actually, this is photographed from the Avon side in the morning. And moving on to August, this is the 4640. So New Jersey Transit re-decaled this to have the older scheme with the chevrons on it. Initially, these were delivered with the speed stripe on the side, but as part of the 40th anniversary, New Jersey Transit opted to re-decal this with the disco stripes. And if you notice to the right, what makes this picture a little bit more interesting is that the only two GP40s that wear a speed stripe are pictured next to it. So you had two locomotives that were built with the older scheme being re-decaled with the speed stripe, and you had the locomotive that was built with the speed stripe, now with the chevron. Moving on to September, this is on the Raritan Valley line at Westfield. This, I believe, is the first westbound of the morning on the Raritan line, first revenue westbound, I should say. Train 5409 with the 4109 leading. This was also one of those special assignments that New Jersey Transit provided for the heritage locomotives. So the sun was just rising behind the tree line. You can't see it in the photo, but October 6th. So this is Chesapeake and Delaware local RB1. This was when it was still originating out of Red Bank Yard, running down to Lakewood with lumber for Woodhaven. This is at the Stovola Quarry in Tinton Falls. They do, as of right now, they don't utilize as part of the line anymore with the new F&S connection being built. But I believe they will start using that again in the next few weeks once they start doing bridge work up in Jamesburg. October 7th, this is the first time that all three of the heritage GP40s were positioned together. So this was a neat little family portrait of the Erie, which was just done a few days prior, the CNJ 4109 and the DOT 4101. This was the second time the 4210 was placed outside in the sun. So that was a neat little tidbit. All right, back across to New York. This is in Brooklyn on the Bushwick branch. This is one of the New York and Atlantic jobs, the RS-40. After a Halloween party, as you can tell. The neat little thing about this area is that a lot of it used to be very industrialized, but over the years it has slowly become gentrified. So all of these buildings with tons of graffiti on them look abandoned, but in reality they're bustling nightclubs at night with a branch line that splits them. So the next photo is further east on that Bushwick branch. This is coming out of one of the buildings that was constructed over the right of way at Flushing Ave. This is in the Queens section of the Bushwick branch now. The 261 was built for the Long Island Railroad. Eventually wound up on the New York and Atlantic after the Long Island Railroad gave up freight service. Moving on to November, this is the rarely photographed Earl Navy Railroad that operates between the pier in Leonardo, New Jersey and Colts Neck. So leading this train are a pair of Baldwin VO 1000s that were built for the Frisco in December of 1941. So while Pearl Harbor was going on, these were coming out of the shop for the Frisco. These are part of the first locomotive or diesel locomotive order for the Frisco. They were rebuilt in the 50s and 60s with EMD prime movers. You can tell in the photograph that they have an EMD headlight and a nose, eventually winding up at Earl's Navy Railroad and still in use today. These might be one of the oldest, if not the oldest, locomotives operating in the state. Moving on to November 5th. So the next day, we have a stone train maneuvering around the West NY with a pair of GP40s. This shot used to be grown in and filled with buildings and fences, but has since been cleared out because of a new 1-in-9 truck bypass route that will be constructed here. On to November 7th. So a few days later, again, we're in the meadows, naturally. We have a photo of the oldest piece of equipment operating on New Jersey Transit and the newest passenger car wise. So this is exiting the North River tunnels at North Bergen, right at sunset. November 10th, we have the photo of the CNJ 4109 and the Erie 4210 meeting at SF Interlocking in Suffern. This was the 4210's second day in revenue service, I believe. November 29th, this is at Richfield Park, CP5. This was the Southern 8099 heritage locomotive passing a locomotive built for the Southern, 1977. That's one of the Susquehanna leased locomotives that is part of the Conrail pool. And what's that? Is it? Oh yeah, there it is. And then on to the last two shots. This is December 16th. This is on Conrail's Delaire Bridge. Conrail Shared Assets ran a Santa train from Philadelphia down to Haddon Heights. So this was around sunrise, right at Delaire Bridge, shot from the Betsy Ross Bridge. This was, what was on this? One of the MP15 ACs that Uniana Terminal owns, the two passenger cars, which is the PRR 120 and the Warrior Ridge, and one of the Pennsylvania Railroad E8s on the rear. Moving on to the next and final shot is on the Beasley's Point Secondary and Oakland. How the train maneuvered down was they wound up Ying down in Camden so the E8 could lead. And this was actually the first time that the Pennsylvania Railroad E8 led since I believe 2015. So this is the first time anyone has publicly seen it leading on the rails. And that's all I got. So thank you very much.
Any questions?
None?
Car still unreliable?
Very. It is very unreliable.
I have a question from Jimmy Brennan. He wants to know why there is no MRL or VF.
Why there is no Montana Rail Link or Seaview photos? Yeah, Nyer's right along the river. Maybe next time, Jimmy, I'll do it. Yeah, it's part of Tri-States. Unfortunately, until Montana moves next to New Jersey, I can't do that for you.
Wait for Blake to-
Yeah.
Yes, Jimmy Brennan also commented on the fact that you chose to end it with two photos. You said you weren't going to put.
I like, you know that picture you had of the sun? I like the sun behind it when I go up there.
Oh, yeah.
And I love the color, and we put that Pennsylvania with, thank you very much.
Any more online?
Yeah, this is a question for all three of you guys. Do you guys, are these pictures presented as original, or are they like Lightroom retouches, or?
So yes, at least mine are. So mine, when you take a photo, the eye doesn't see what the camera sees, or the camera doesn't see what the eye sees, rather. So there is some dodging and burning you have to do, especially with the sky, like particularly with the sunset photos. You have to bring the shadows out, add a little contrast to get that depth. But nothing, no replacing skies or, anything too crazy. I don't know. I can't speak for anyone else, but. The good thing with the new cameras is the dynamic range is surreal compared to what cameras used to be when I started taking pictures. So, sunset shots like that, normally they're a wash. You can't see anything, but with the new dynamic range and sensors of cameras, you can really bring out shadows that you wouldn't normally be able to.
Do you guys do any shots with any stuff with drones?
No drones. None of us own drones. So if it looks like a drone shot, it's not a drone shot.
Your guys are just really good climbers.
Yes, yes.
How did someone ask, how did you manage to catch Weapons Station Earl and not get arrested?
Well, I'm still here, so I guess I did not get arrested.
Yeah, the bigger question was, how did you know that there was gonna be a train?
So you just get lucky, really. I mean, you could see them on the pier, so generally if they're on the pier, there's a good chance they're operating.
All I got from online.
Cool.
Apparently Hans Gruber from Die Hard's in attendance online. I guess he's a fan.
I guess so. I don't have any Brazil photos, but
Last photo, was that an artistic decision to keep it in the shadows and everybody taking pictures there, or was that?
that was kind of just what it was. I mean, it does add a little bit to it to show how many people were actually out for it, but
The photo that you took on the west end of the bridge to Staten Island, where the ramp track is, the original Staten Island Railway Bridge is in the front, in the foreground, which is mostly wood construction. Is that out of service?
yes. Yeah, that's that. So that portion from where the new connection comes in to Bayway, which is where the Bayway Terminal Switching Railroad operates, that's all out of service. Bayway still uses it from their yard up to the corridor.
But can they still get up to Cranford?
I think that bridge is out of service.
Yeah, that bridge is, I believe the bridge over the corridor is out of service. They haven't used it in a long time. I know there was a lot of work with the overhead wires along that portion of the right of way. So I don't know if anything's been ripped up, if there's any,
Thank you.
equipment there.
Any other questions for Russell or Rob or Duncan? Cool, thank you guys.
Yeah.
And it's back to you.
Really appreciate it.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
All right, really thank you guys for coming out. Thank you, Rob, Russell, and Duncan. As someone who, has photographs in books of all these places from way back when, and I'm sure a lot of the guys online and here tonight remember what this stuff used to look like. It's really cool to see, the next generation, going to those locations and taking those shots, and it's a lot of cool, interesting stuff. So well done, guys. Really great photography, and we're really happy to have hosted you guys tonight. So well done. So that's it for tonight. Our next meeting will be the second Thursday in February. We'll be having our Vice President, Mike Kaplonsky, presenting some of his dad's photos, Dr. Lenny. So we're really looking forward to that. Look for information about that posted online shortly. And good night, everybody, and get home safe. Thank you. We'll catch you next time.